The twin suns burned over the dusty alien city of Vakra. In the heart of the market square, hundreds of aliens shouted and bargained, trading everything from spices to slaves. But this day, a special auction was drawing the crowd. Tied to a metal pole stood a girl, tall, thin, and filthy. Her skin was light gray, her long white hair tangled and falling over her shoulders. Her clothes were nothing more than ripped cloth. Her feet were bare and her body was bruised. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, quiet and still, her eyes empty like a broken doll. They called her Filthy Mare. "She's wild," one alien laughed. "Only good for cleaning toilets." Another shouted, "Who'd take a beast like that home?" The crowd laughed cruelly. No one saw her as a person, just a joke, just trash, something to be mocked. Suddenly, a ship landed nearby. It was a human craft, sleek, black, and marked with Earth's trading guild. From it stepped a man wearing a long brown coat, tall boots, and dark sunglasses. His name was Kyle Mercer, a human trader traveling through alien systems for rare metals and supplies. He walked through the market calmly, ignoring most of the noise. But then he heard the crowd cheering near the auction block. "Coming next, this half-beast, disgusting and dumb but strong bones," the announcer yelled. "Starting price, just 5 credits. Who wants her?" Kyle glanced toward the pole, and he stopped. The girl was looking at him. Her head was slightly tilted down, but her eyes, they were staring straight at him. Not begging, not crying, just waiting. Like she had already given up, like she expected nothing. And yet something inside Kyle shifted. He pushed through the crowd. "Don't waste your time, human," one alien smirked. "She's garbage." Kyle ignored him. He stepped in front of the announcer and said calmly, "I'll take her." The crowd fell silent. "What?" The announcer blinked. You want to buy her?" "I'll pay 10 credits, Kyle said, "and I want her now." Gasps filled the air. No one had ever paid more than 5 credits for her. Some even tried to give her away for free in the past. The announcer stuttered. "She's yours, but no refunds." Kyle nodded and moved to untie her ropes. Her wrists were raw, her legs shaking. When he touched her arm gently, she flinched hard like she expected to be hit. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. She didn't speak. She didn't look at him, but she followed him. The crowd booed. "Enjoy your pet, human. She'll bite you in your sleep." Kyle didn't answer. He led her through the market, past dozens of curious stares until they reached his ship. The girl kept her head low, walking like someone used to being kicked. Inside the ship, Kyle showed her a small room with a clean bed, water, and basic clothes. "You can rest here," he said. "You're free now." The girl blinked, not understanding his words. She stepped back, confused, like it was some kind of trick. Kyle didn't push her. He placed a soft blanket on the bed and said, "I don't know your name, but you can stay. You're safe." Then he left the room and shut the door gently behind him. In the hallway, Kyle leaned against the wall and sighed. "What the hell am I doing?" he muttered to himself. But back in the room, the alien girl stood still for a long moment. Then she walked slowly to the bed. She touched the blanket like it was made of gold. She sat. She didn't lie down. Not yet. But for the first time in many months, she closed her eyes, and she was not afraid. The ship rose into the sky, cutting through clouds and dust. Inside, the engines hummed quietly. Kyle sat in the pilot seat, watching the stars appear on the screen in front of him. Behind him, the strange alien girl sat on the floor of her new room, not speaking, not moving much. She didn't even look out the window. She had not said a single word since they left the market. Her hands were wrapped tightly around her knees, her back pressed against the wall. She stared at nothing, like her mind was still trapped in that awful place, the market of shame. Kyle had seen many strange things in the galaxy, but this girl confused him. She wasn't just quiet, she was scared of silence, scared of peace, as if she didn't believe any of it was real. He placed a tray of food outside her door. Simple things, Bread, fruit, a bottle of clean water. He knocked lightly. "I brought something to eat," he said. No answer. After some time, he returned to check. The bread was gone. So was the water. But the girl never came out. That night, Kyle couldn't sleep. He lay on the couch in the control room, staring at the ceiling. He thought about the others in the market, how they laughed at her like she wasn't alive. And now she was here, on his ship, still living in that pain. He didn't even know her name. The next morning, Kyle walked to the room again. The door was slightly open. She was awake. She had folded the blanket neatly and placed it on the bed. She sat on the floor again, her eyes dull. Her clothes were clean. She must have used the water to wash. "Hey," Kyle said gently, kneeling near the doorway. "I don't want anything from you. You don't owe me anything." She blinked slowly, then looked at him for the first time since the market. Her eyes were sharp but empty, like a creature always ready to run. "I just want to help," he added. He placed a small translator device near her. "This helps with speaking. If you want to talk, use it." He left again. This time he didn't shut the door. Later that day, Kyle worked in the engine room fixing a loose valve. The ship was old and needed regular care. He hummed a tune while he worked, wiping sweat from his forehead. Then he heard a sound. He turned. The girl stood at the door, silent, watching him. Kyle straightened. "Hi," he said carefully. "You okay?" She held up the translator. Her fingers trembled. She pressed the button once. "Safe?" the device said in a robotic voice. Kyle's heart jumped. He smiled. "Yes. You're safe here." The girl looked down, then slowly walked away. But for the first time, she didn't close the door behind her. Over the next few days, she began to move around the ship more. Quietly, carefully. She watched everything. How Kyle cooked. How he fixed things. How he talked to the computer. She never asked for anything. But Kyle always left food and warm clothes nearby. One night, while Kyle ate dinner, he heard a whisper. He turned around. She stood behind him, holding the translator. She pressed the button. "My name. Rhea." Kyle blinked, then smiled softly. "Rhea," he repeated. "That's a beautiful name." She didn't reply, but something in her face changed. A small hidden flicker, like a candle trying to stay lit in the wind. The next morning, Rhea surprised him. She had cleaned the kitchen, folded clothes, organized the tools. Kyle looked around, shocked. "You didn't have to do all this," she tilted her head slightly and said through the translator, "I want to be useful." Kyle shook his head. "You don't have to prove anything." Rhea looked confused. She had never heard those words before, never felt them. On her planet, if you weren't useful, you were trash. Now, someone was telling her she was enough. But as the ship moved toward their next destination, a trade hub called Kasari Prime, Rhea felt a strange fear in her chest. She had seen how other aliens treated her kind. What if they treated her the same again? What if Kyle gave her back? The ship may have left the market, but the shame still followed her like a shadow. The stars passed slowly outside the window. The ship floated peacefully in deep space, moving toward Kasari Prime. Inside, something quiet, but powerful, was also changing. Rhea no longer hid in the shadows. She still didn't talk much, but she watched everything. She learned. She watched how Kyle fixed the broken engine coils, how he read maps and made coffee, how he talked to the ship's AI like it was a friend, and she noticed something else. He never locked her door. He never shouted. He never touched her without asking. To her, that was strange. Strange, but good. One morning, Kyle found Rhea sitting near the front window. It was the first time she had ever been there. She stared at the stars, quietly humming a sound he didn't Recognize. Kyle smiled. You like it here? She nodded once. He sat next to her and offered her a warm cup. She took it without fear. He pointed at the stars. That bright one? That's Earth's sun. My home. Rhea turned her head slowly. Her eyes blinked. Is it safe? She asked through the translator. Kyle chuckled. Safer than most places, yeah, but it's cold in winter. Rhea looked away again, then whispered, I don't remember my home. Kyle's smile faded. You don't? She shook her head. Taken too young, sold, beaten, called names. Her fingers tightened on the cup. Filthy mare. That was the worst. Kyle was quiet. Then he asked gently, But your real name? You said it was Rhea, right? She nodded. That's a good name. Never forget it again. Rhea looked at him. Her voice was soft, but firm. Rhea. Later, in the ship's workshop, Rhea stood behind Kyle, watching him fix a broken scanner. Want to learn? He asked. She nodded. He handed her a tool. This unscrews the panel. She tried. Her hand was shaky at first, but she didn't stop. Kyle didn't laugh. He didn't rush her. Good, he said. Now twist the connector here. She did. When the scanner light blinked green, Kyle grinned. You fixed it. Rhea's eyes widened. I fixed it. He nodded. With your own hands. She looked at her hands like they belonged to someone new. Maybe they did. That night, Kyle was making dinner when Rhea came into the room with something wrapped in cloth. What's that? He asked. She unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a small metal badge, old and worn. My mother gave this to me, she said through the translator. Before I was taken. Kyle touched it carefully. It has writing. What does it say? Rhea paused, then read it aloud, in her own language. You are not what they call you, you are my daughter. My light. Kyle looked at her. Then remember that, Rhea. Don't let anyone call you anything else. The next day they reached Kasari. Prime, a large trade station filled with hundreds of species. The station buzzed with voices, deals, and arguments. As they walked through the halls, Rhea stayed close to Kyle, nervous. Aliens looked at her and whispered, She's one of those. Is that the filthy mare from Vakra? What's a human doing with her? Rhea lowered her head. Kyle stopped. He looked around and raised his voice. Her name is Rhea. You want to speak? Use her name. The crowd went quiet. Rhea stared at him. She had never seen anyone stand up like that, never heard her name spoken with pride. For the first time in years, she felt like she existed. When they returned to the ship, she sat quietly in the engine room, holding her mother's badge. Kyle came in and sat nearby. You okay? She nodded. You don't have to be strong all the time, he said. I know, she whispered. But now, I want to be strong for me. That night, Kyle heard something strange. Laughter. Rhea was laughing. She was alone in the kitchen, holding a spoon like a microphone, mimicking the AI's robotic voice. Dinner is served, Master Human. Kyle leaned on the wall, smiling. The girl they mocked had a name. She had a voice. And she was learning to use it. The ship drifted in orbit above a quiet moon, its engines silent, its lights low. Inside, a quiet storm was growing, not of destruction but of change. Rhea stood in front of a mirror. She almost didn't recognize herself. Her white hair was clean now, brushed and tied back. Her skin, once bruised and covered in dirt, now shined, faintly under the warm lights. She wore a simple tunic Kyle had given her, gray and soft. Her eyes still held pain. But behind them, a small flame had been lit. She touched her face slowly, carefully, as if trying to remember who this person. In the kitchen, Kyle was humming again as he cooked. Rhea walked in and placed some clean dishes on the counter. She had washed them before he could ask. Kyle smiled. You're becoming fast. She tilted her head. Fast is good? He laughed. Very. She smiled, just a little. Her smiles were rare, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Then something unexpected happened. The AI on the ship suddenly said, "Incoming message, delivery crew arriving in Dock Bay 2. Kyle sighed. Great, I forgot about the supply drop. He looked at Rhea. You want to come? Rhea hesitated. Strangers still made her uneasy, but after a moment she nodded. I want to try. The cargo crew entered the ship, a mix of alien species. Most of them looked around without interest. But one stopped when he saw Rhea. His eyes widened. Wait a minute. I know you. You're the filthy mare from Vakra Market. The other crew members turned to look. Rhea froze. Kyle's voice cut through the room. You call her that again, he said calmly. And you'll be leaving without your legs. The alien laughed. You serious? You defending her? I'm not defending her, Kyle said. I'm warning you. The tension in the room thickened. Rhea stepped forward. I have a name, she said through the translator, her voice steady. It's Rhea. The room fell quiet. Kyle looked at her, impressed. The alien muttered something and walked away. The rest of the crew finished their work in silence. After they left, Rhea stood in the hallway, shaking a little. Kyle walked up beside her. You did good? I was afraid, she whispered. But you still stood up, he said. That's called courage. She looked at him. I've never had courage before. He shook his head. No. You always had it. You just never had a reason to use it. Later that night, Rhea sat by herself in the engine room holding a small piece of metal. She was trying to build something, a simple device. Kyle had shown her how the tools worked, but this time she tried it alone. Her fingers moved carefully. Her eyes stayed focused. When the small light blinked green, she gasped. It worked. She had built something. On her own, she jumped to her feet and ran to find Kyle. When he saw what she made, he smiled wide. Rhea, this is perfect. I made it for the air filter system, she explained, to help it last longer. Kyle looked stunned. That's actually genius, she blinked. Genius? It means smart. Really smart. Rhea stood a little straighter. She wasn't just a slave anymore. She was useful. She was learning. She was becoming something more. But change brings fear. That night, as Kyle slept, Rhea sat awake in her room, hugging her knees. A thought haunted her. What if he sends me away? What if he's only kind for now? She had seen kindness before. Only to have it ripped away. She didn't want to believe he would do that, but part of her still feared it. The next morning, Kyle was gone from the ship. A message blinked on the console. Back in an hour. Stay safe. Rhea wandered the ship alone. She ended up back in the mirror. She looked at herself again, clean, calm, stronger. Not a slave, not a filthy mare, just Rhea. Suddenly an old memory came back to her, a voice she hadn't heard in years. Don't let them name you. You are more than their words. Her mother's voice. Tears filled her eyes. I am Rhea, she whispered to her reflection. And this time, she believed it. The stars outside were calm, but danger doesn't always come from above. Sometimes it sneaks through the doors you thought were locked. Kyle's ship floated near a remote asteroid station to refuel. It was a quiet stop. No loud crowds, no markets. Just trade workers, fuel tanks, and rusted metal platforms. Rhea stood near the cargo bay, checking the new supplies. Her hands moved with confidence now. She wore fitted boots, soft gloves, and a small belt of tools. She looked different, strong, focused, free. But freedom always has enemies. Kyle had gone to the station's office to sign a trade report. It should have been quick, but he didn't return. Rhea grew worried. She walked toward the ship's entrance to check, just as the warning alarm blared. Unauthorized entry detected. Hull breach. Zone C. Rhea's heart jumped. She ran toward Zone C. Lights flickered. The door was open. 3 alien figures in black armor were inside. Their faces were covered, but one held a familiar brand, the same mark from the slave traders on Vakra. Rhea froze. The lead invader turned. Well, the filthy mare learned to wear boots. She stepped back. I remember you, he sneered. You cost me credits, you made me look weak in front of buyers. The second alien laughed. The human pet thinks she's a real woman now. Rhea's body shook, not from fear, from rage. They moved toward her. She didn't run. Instead, she reached to the wall and pulled the emergency lever. Gas hissed. Red lights flashed. The ship locked down. The aliens growled. Stupid girl. Rhea dodged the first one, grabbed a wrench from her tool belt and swung. Crack. One alien dropped. The second caught her arm and slammed her into a wall. Pain shot through her ribs, but she didn't scream. She bit down, twisted free, and drove her, elbow into his throat. He stumbled back. She grabbed a fire tube and sprayed it. White foam blinded him. Then she turned to the leader. The biggest one. The one who once sold her like trash. He raised his weapon. Stay still, beast, you're coming back with us. Her eyes burned. No, she said through gritted teeth. Never again. Suddenly, bang! The side hatch flew open. Kyle stormed in, blaster drawn. Get away from her. The leader turned. Fired, missed. Kyle shot twice. One alien fell. The second tried to run. Rhea tackled him from behind, holding his legs until Kyle stunned him. Only one enemy left. The leader. He grabbed Rhea and held her in front of him like a shield. Back off, he shouted, or I kill her right now. Rhea's breathing was sharp. Her feet kicked, but she couldn't break free. Kyle's eyes locked onto her. Then Rhea did something that shocked them all. She smiled and headbutted the alien. Hard. The leader staggered, letting go. Kyle fired once. Thud, it was over. Rhea collapsed to her knees. Kyle rushed over. Are you okay? She coughed, but nodded. I'm fine. He helped her stand. You fought them, he said. You didn't freeze. You didn't run. She looked down at her hands, covered in bruises but steady. I wasn't a slave, she said softly. I was a fighter. Kyle looked at her, pride in his eyes. No, Rhea, he said. You are a fighter. Later, Kyle cleaned her wounds. They sat in the ship's med bay, silent but calm. You saved me, he said. They could have taken the ship, or me, but you stopped them. Rhea winced as he wrapped her arm. I couldn't lose this place, or you. Kyle froze. He looked into her eyes, and suddenly nothing needed to be said. Not yet. But something unspoken was beginning between them. Not master and rescued, not owner and slave, but something deeper. That night, Rhea couldn't sleep. She walked to the mirror again. This time she saw no shame, no chains, just Rhea. A girl once laughed at, now a woman who could stand, speak, and fight. The galaxy had tried to break her, but she didn't break. She rose. Rhea stood near the ship's window, staring at the planet below. It was called Solara Haven, a peaceful colony where humans and aliens lived together. Kyle said it was safe. But Rhea's heart didn't feel safe, not because of the colony, because of him. Because every time he smiled at her, every time he stood beside her, she felt something dangerous, something she didn't understand. Hope, and hope in her past life always led to heartbreak. Kyle returned from the local guild hall holding a sealed data pad. Good news, he said. We're cleared for long-term stay. I also registered us as co-owners of the ship. Rhea looked up. Me? Kyle nodded. You've earned it. This ship is as much yours as mine now. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Not because she didn't want it, but because no one had ever given her anything without wanting something back. Why are you doing this? she finally whispered. Kyle stepped closer. Because I trust you. Because I believe in you. And because I want you to stay. Rhea's eyes lowered. Even if others laugh? Even if they say I'm just a rescued slave? Kyle's voice was firm. Let them talk. I don't care what they say. He placed a small golden ring on the table between them. Her breath caught. I want you to be more than just my crew, he said. I want you to be my partner, my wife. Rhea stared at the ring like it might vanish. I don't understand, she said. I'm not worthy. Kyle knelt down. You are more than worthy. I've traveled 100 worlds, but I've never met someone like you. You didn't just survive. You fought to become more. She shook her head. I'm not human. I'm not beautiful like your kind. I still wake up afraid some nights. Kyle smiled. And I still snore too loud. We all carry something, but together, maybe it's lighter. Rhea's lips trembled. Her hands hovered over the ring. But I was called a beast, she whispered. A thing. Kyle gently took her hand. Not to me. To me, you're Rhea. The one who fought back. The one who made this ship feel like a home. Later that day, they walked through the Solara Haven Plaza. News had spread quickly. A human trader had asked a rescued alien to marry him. Whispers followed them. That's the girl from the slave markets. He's serious? With her? She's not even the same species. But Kyle ignored them. He walked beside Rhea, his hand gently brushing hers like they had always belonged together. One human man stepped forward, frowning. Are you sure about this, Kyle? People will talk. Kyle looked at him. Let them. I chose her. Rhea, stunned, held her breath. He turned to her, held her hand openly in front of the crowd. I don't see a beast, he said loudly. I see someone stronger than all of you. Gasps echoed through the square. Rhea's heart pounded. The world blurred. She looked into his eyes and saw no judgment, only truth. She stepped forward and pressed the translator button. I accept, her voice said, shaking. Kyle smiled. Then Rhea did something she never thought she could do in public. She took off the old badge her mother gave her and held it high. This was all I had once, she said. But now I have something more. I have a name. I have a home. And I have someone who sees me. The crowd watched in silence. Not everyone accepted it, but some did. And that was enough. That night, Rhea stood in her new dress, a soft silver fabric Kyle found on the station. She had never worn something so light, so bright. In the mirror, she saw herself one more time. She wasn't a slave. She wasn't a filthy mare. She was Rhea Mercer. The twin suns of Vakra burned hot, just like the day Rhea was sold. The same dusty wind blew through the streets. The same cruel laughter echoed in the market. But today, something was different. Because today, Rhea came back. Not in chains. Not in shame. She returned in a polished light steel transport, walking side by side with her human husband, Kyle Mercer, captain of the Wanderer's Hope. His hand rested gently on the small of her back, proud and unafraid. Every eye turned, every voice quieted. The aliens of Vakra Market froze where they stood, mouths half open. There she was, the filthy mare, the one they mocked, laughed at, threw garbage at, and sold for scraps. Now wearing clean silver robes, hair tied back with starlace, eyes steady, a wife, a warrior, a woman reborn. I remember this place, she whispered to Kyle. He nodded. You don't have to do this. I do, Rhea replied. Not for revenge, for something better. They walked past the auction pole, still there, rusted and bent. She ran a hand across it. This is where they laughed, she said, where I was nameless. She turned to the crowd now gathering, merchants, traders, buyers, the same people who once cheered her suffering. Listen to me, Rhea said, using her own voice now, strong, clear, no translator. I came back not to be your shame, but your reminder. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kyle watched quietly. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. This was Rhea's moment. You called me a beast, she said, eyes scanning the familiar faces. You tied me like an animal. You said I was worth 5 credits. A tall alien stepped forward, one of the auctioneers from years ago. What do you want now, Mare? Rhea didn't flinch. I want nothing from you, she said. Not your approval, not your money. She took out a glowing crystal badge, the same kind Kyle gave her on their wedding night. She raised it high. This is the symbol of my name, of my freedom, of the life I built after you threw me away. She pointed to a group of poor alien children hiding near a wall. Their clothes were torn, eyes wide. I came back for them. 2 transport ships landed behind her. Volunteers stepped out, humans and aliens from Solara Haven. Medical supplies, food crates, warm blankets. Kyle stepped forward now. We're opening a shelter here. For the forgotten, for those like Rhea, you won't stop us. The auctioneer growled. You're creating weakness, encouraging trash to think they matter. Rhea walked straight up to him. She looked him in the eyes and smiled. The only trash I see is the kind that believes cruelty is strength. Then, she turned away, leaving him speechless. Later, in a quiet area near the ship, a small alien girl approached Rhea. She was thin, barefoot, with tangled hair and sad eyes. Rhea knelt down. Do you have a name? She asked softly. The girl shook her head. Rhea removed a silver chain from around her neck and gently placed it around the girl's. You do now, Rhea whispered, and no one will take it from you. The girl hugged her tightly. Kyle watched, from a distance, eyes stinging with emotion. That evening, the shelter opened. Lines of forgotten aliens stood outside, not to be sold, but to be helped. Rhea served soup with her own hands. She held children, wrapped them in blankets, gave out warm shoes. Each time someone looked away in shame, she whispered, You are not what they called you. As the stars appeared, Kyle found Rhea standing on the roof of the old auction block. She was quiet. He came beside her, held her hand. You did it, he said. You turned pain into light. She looked up at the stars. I used to think I was nothing, but now I feel like a galaxy. He smiled. You are. To me. They stood in silence for a while. Then Rhea said, I want to stay here sometimes. Visit. Teach them to fight, to think, to live. Kyle nodded. Then we will. Before leaving, Rhea stood at the center of the market one last time. She looked at the pole. Then she took out a small device. With one press, it exploded. Not violently, just enough to shatter the rusted chain that once held her. The crowd gasped. Rhea turned to them. That's the last time anyone gets tied to that post. And with that, she walked away. On board the Wanderer's Hope, Rhea placed the broken piece of chain on a shelf beside her wedding ring and her mother's badge. Not to remember the pain, but to honor the journey. She had once been mocked as a filthy mare. Now, she had become something far more powerful, a name remembered not in shame, but in honor. Rhea Mercer, the girl who rose.